Hello, hello, and hello.
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 We are officially live for June's Book of the Month Club. I did not forget what month it was just then. It is June, and it is the last Sunday of the month, so you all know what that means. It is time for Vault of Midnight's Book of the Month Club, where various staff members / the occasional special appearance from an owner will discuss this month's Book of the Month. He's coming later. Don't worry about that. We'll discuss the Book of the Month. This month it is The Magic Fish by Trung Le Nguyen. An amazing, amazing story. Beautifully drawn, beautifully told. We'll get into all that, though. Quickly, introductions. I am Caleb. I work at Vault of Midnight Ann Arbor. You may have seen me on Vault of Knowledge or a few other book clubs. I go by he, him, and I am here to have a fantastic time talking about a beautiful, beautiful book.
Me. Hi, I'm Carly. I am also from the Vault of Midnight Ann Arbor store. I do some manga things. You've never seen my face, except for book club, which I enjoy doing too much. And my pronouns are she, her, and now...
Hey, it's me. I'm Curtis, and you've probably seen me over many, many long years screaming about comic book goodness at a Vault of Midnight, maybe Ann Arbor or Detroit or Grand Rapids. And I'm excited to be here with Caleb and Carly, and my pronouns are he, him. Right. And I'm so juiced to talk about this book with you guys.
All of our names start with C's today.
Yeah.
The C team.
Yes.
Which is the best team.
The C3s.
That's right.
Caleb, Carly, Curtis to discuss some cute and correct books. All right, guys, let's jump into it. If you don't know, every month, Vault of Midnight will choose one book to be featured as our book of the month. It is 15% off in every one of our shops, Ann Arbor, Detroit, Grand Rapids, and also available on our web store, vaultofmidnight.shop. If you haven't ever heard of The Magic Fish, you're missing out. Brief synopsis of the story. There will be some light spoilers in this book club. We'll try not to do anything too bad. But then again, this story isn't really one to sort of have twists and turns and wild, outrageous things exposed. It's more of a beautiful story about the life and times of Tien. So very quickly, brief synopsis. Tien is a first-generation American. Is that correct?
Yep, both of his parents were refugees from Vietnam.
Both of his parents were refugees from Vietnam. They immigrated to America, and he is growing up in a bilingual household. He is learning. He mainly speaks English, while his parents mainly speak Vietnamese. This causes a sort of distance between them. And throughout all of this, while he is trying to discover and learn about the world, he is trying to tell his parents that he is gay. This is difficult because with the language divide, he's never been taught the words to tell them, which is sort of a beautiful metaphor for not knowing how to speak to your parents, and is also literal because this does happen and this is a very real scenario. But through fairy tales, he bonds with his family. The stories that they grew up on are the stories we are growing up on, are the stories our children will grow up on. And it's this beautiful connection between he and his mother. And through it, they're able to sort of discuss and communicate with each other. Did I leave anything big out, guys?
No, I think you pretty much nailed it. This is another wonderful story, too, where I enjoy stories that are kind of written about the more gay experience of growing up to. This isn't a story that's based off so much trauma. It's a beautiful tale about the three main fairy tales they focus on here are different versions of Cinderella, The Little Mermaid, and
Snow White.
And Snow White. Yeah.
Yeah, through the artwork and color palette, you can see when they're jumping between Tien's real life and the fairy tales. And dude, that artwork is so stunning. This book, written and drawn by Tringles, as he is affectionately known. I'll just sort of do a brief little, you flip through and you'll see that the tone of each scene is sort of reflected in the color palette that they're using. But the artwork itself is so simple yet beautiful. There's
He
not.
does men-
Sorry, continue, Carly.
Oh, I was just going to mention in the very beginning of the book, he mentions that the first 168 pages of the book were drawn traditionally on cardstock printer paper with a combination of micron fine liners, and then the rest of the book is done digitally. So much of this must have been so tedious to put together in the very beginning. Not to say that digital is any easier, but the amount that he put in just with his own hands is insane.
And that's also just the creation of the book lends itself to the message, the sort of bringing together of your tradition, your past, and merging it into the current day, and how you take the things that formed you and bring them into the future and incorporate them into a new thing. So that's kind of beautiful that that he even in making it combined traditional Vietnamese traditions, I guess, with modern comic making and graphic novelry. So yeah, I think so much work and so much heart was put into this book.
Yeah, you got to, right? When you're doing a graphic novel project, I mean, geez, it's like this is probably a couple of years of labor before it ever kind of sees the light of day, right? So I'm always impressed at an original graphic novel, right? Because I mean, you're just toiling kind of in the shadows for maybe years before you reveal the thing to the
especially
world, so.
When you have written and drawn it yourself. So there's not even that second person that you can hand the story off to and share it with. You are just sort of formulating this world, and especially when, as it seems, it probably draws very closely from your personal life. So you may have been living with this story for decades before you're actually able to print it and show people what you've been going through. Yeah, absolutely. I think a good place to start, to jump in, is just around the table. What were you guys' favorite parts? What really stuck out, either conceptually or actually like moments on the page?
You first, Curtis?
Oh yeah, I will say just the three different kind of colors. You know, you've got one color to show the present, the past. Anytime they're telling like a story or a fable or reading from one of the library books, it's blue. I love the kind of color coding, kind of blew me away. So like on a construction level, that was amazing.
Yeah.
But I loved Tien and his mom and their kind of emotional kind of journey, their desire to communicate with one another, because it wasn't one-sided at all. They were both struggling with being able to understand one another. And I just thought that was magical. And I will say also that the dresses, you guys were just, I got to figure out, I assume they did a lot of research on the dresses because they're just so, you know, the book is not overly flashy. I mean, it's just it's super nice artwork, but then you come to these scenes of the dresses, right? And they are just these full splash pages, and they're totally, totally gorgeous, and like these, like fully realized fashion pieces. Like, I mean,
they're like design sketches.
Yeah, it just blew me away because, I mean, that's like a whole nother level of design, right? I mean, that people spend decades becoming masters of like fashion. I was really blown away by the dressery. Is there a word for?
I don't want to say dressing because it's going to sound like ranch, but I know what you're trying to go for.
Yeah, very cool. And there's like multiple scenes of like these big, gorgeous dresses. So that was.
Yeah. What were the descriptions on those? The first dress must be made from the essence of the dawn itself, as dazzling as the morning. The second must be made from the evening, as beautiful and as moonlight and dark as sable. And the third dress must be made of glimmering starlight gathered from a clear night sky. So they're all so very unique, yet they look cohesive. Beautiful. It's just stunning. So the representations, the artwork, absolutely. Carly, what were you thinking?
I was actually going to say, Curtis, one of the really interesting things about Trung is our author here. I was recently just watching an interview between him and Tilly Walden, actually,
Oh,
where he was
cool.
talking about how one of his first internships in college, where he did quite a few things with art history. And one of his side jobs were the colleges, when they would perform their theater performances, he was the one that would go into the research of historically making all of their costumes accurate, essentially. So I love that he got to bring that into his story, too. It goes in with the costuming design that he's had with him.
That is the job that he gave the mother in the story? Is that she's a
Yes.
costume designer? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
isn't that sweet?
That's so cool.
I love it so much. My favorite bits were just, like we were talking about earlier, telling these stories that we've heard hundreds of times as kids, but always putting little extra twists into them. For our first story, the character that we're talking about who first gets these 3 beautiful dresses from this old man from the sea, which the old man from the sea actually is a reference to stories like in Sinbad, where Sinbad has a moment where he himself gets trapped by the old man of the sea. He's kind of like the Loki trickster that you'll see in a lot of different folklore and fairy tales, where he asks you to help him get across a body of water, and when you do, and after you're done, he still latches on. And
what that was.
Yes.
Oh,
so in
really
the story,
cool.
yeah, the old man of the sea is seen coming from the ocean to our main character in the story that he's telling, and telling her that he will take her hand in marriage if he can provide these 3 beautiful dresses for her. And yeah, he's this old, terrifying skeletal man who is coming on the shoulders of a dead human skeleton, someone who has been tricked, and they've had to carry him for their whole lives.
And the second time you see him, I don't know if you noticed who he's riding on, but it is not the same person as before. It is the princess's father.
Yes, who was very cruel to her in the beginning.
Yep, and is paying now his dues.
Yep, and now he has to carry the old man of the sea. Just like so many different types of references like that. I like with The Little Mermaid, they go back to some of the older tellings where the sisters lose their hair so that they can help their oldest sister on land to take revenge on the prince that broke her heart. Like there's so many renditions of these stories, and Magic Fish does a really good job at bringing almost every aspect to different things that you'll have in there as well.
Yeah, I took a literary fairy tales class in high school, and so I was a little familiar with the actual story of Snow White more than the others. So when I saw they were doing it where the stepmother literally kills her and like buries her bones, and it gets very gruesome. The jealousy, the rage, and then what was the final story? The final one was
The Little Mermaid.
With the very, very end when...
oh, yeah, that's the very end one.
Is it?
Yeah, because the mom changes the ending for Chung to help him understand that she accepts him.
Yes. I was confused with the ball. I was like, isn't that Cinderella? But turns out a lot of fairy tales have...
a lot of fairy tales have balls. Exactly. Yes. They have big masquerades.
So, Carly, your favorite part was what?
Just the Easter eggs that are dropped throughout all the stories, whether they're from like different renditions from around the world, or the more traditional like Grimm's fairy tale or Hans Christian Andersen type tellings. He did a very good job of just bringing all those different aspects together.
I think it was very cool to see a story that is so entrenched in the concept of fairy tales, like the importance they hold and storytelling through generations, through family. It was cool to see very clearly he actually did all of the work and really did a deep dive into all of these myths and lores. And it was really cool. Yeah, I agree. It was very cool to see all of that. For me, personal favorite part was a very small moment right near the end. Small spoiler warning, but it's when he's at the school dance and he is dancing with Julian. There's a swimming dance. The two of them have a moment. It's the boy, his best friend, who he has also had a crush on. We've all been there.
Yeah.
And he has this moment where they're close together. And instead of saying, I'm gay, instead of coming out to Julian, he asks Julian if he is gay. And Julian just says, I don't think so. It's not a huge thing. It's not some massive earth-shattering thing. And Tien reacts as, did Claire tell you? Like, it's clear that you know, and I know you know. And then it's Julian's response. My favorite part is, no, do you remember in second grade? And it flashes back to them playing with the Titanic ship, and he's just like, Tien is, I want to marry Leo. And Julian is like, invite me to the wedding. Flashes back. One panel, one small thing, and then it doesn't destroy Tien. It doesn't, it's not this horrible thing. It's this moment of peace and clarity of, oh my God, one of the people I care about most, who I've been hiding this from, has known all along, and it never mattered. They have always accepted me. And it gives him hope about his family, and it gives him hope about the future. And just that small moment of like, hey, are you gay? No, I'm not. That's cool that you are, though. Wait, you knew? And then it's like, yeah, it's cool. It's fine. I've always known. And just this, like, it's always been okay. I still love you. You're still my best friend. And there's, that beautiful moment of living vicariously that we all have wanted, where you basically tell your crush that you love them, and you still get to be friends. So that's cool. That's fun to see. That's always a good fantasy to live in.
Well, and just from like a kind of creative standpoint too, the amount, like you said, of cool storytelling that they do in just a couple panels. There's so much conveyed over, I mean, half a page of comic books, and it's so impactful and masterfully done. So it's a cool moment, and it just speaks to the talent of Trungles, the creator. So yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So and then again, just overall, the whole thing's my favorite. It's all beautiful. It's just so good. Did you guys have a least favorite part? Anything super uncomfortable, or that you felt,
oh yeah,
why the heck was that involved? Why'd you ruin a beautiful thing? Any moments like that?
Do you mind if I go first for this one?
Go for it, please.
So there is a point where Tien's mother has to go back to Vietnam for an emergency for her mother. She's not doing well. And just to keep from any spoilers, this is hanging very heavy on her because she feels like she's not being a good daughter for not staying with her mom in Vietnam, and she's not being a good mother for not staying in America with her son. She's torn. And that's one of my favorite things about this book, is that she does have a personality. She's not just the mom who's going to have to hear about her son coming out. There's more to her story going on than just through the eyes of our main character, which this book does split off between Tien's storyline and his mother's storyline, which I think is a very fair thing to do. When she is overseas, Tien goes to I think it's a Catholic school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a Catholic private school.
Yeah. I don't know if it's explicitly stated that it's Catholic, but it is a religious school.
It is a heavily religious school.
Yeah.
And when the teachers see him dancing with his best friend, who accepts him wholly, but the school doesn't completely. So they bring him in for counseling, which is an extremely triggering and upsetting thing for anybody to read about. And they even go as far as to take the opportunity from Tien to tell his mother. They go to his mother and express it in a way of saying, like, in the same negativity of saying your son's having fights at school, or your son is doing poorly in life. No, he's not. He's just not the exact same as everybody who's in the school. And I remember just sitting on the edge of my seat being like, oh my God, they took the opportunity from him. This entire time, he's trying to find the words. He's trying to put these stories together to tell her in a certain way. And now he doesn't get to do it. And
he even tried. He has attempted multiple times. He started,
yes.
And life happens. Something else got in the way. So he's trying as hard as he can, and he loses that power. Yeah, absolutely.
And the cherry on top of that horrible sundae is that the counselor tells him that coming out to your parents is like having a death in the family. And
after his grandmother passed.
That just is a kick to the soul to hear about anybody talking to a child like that. This is my least favorite part. Not that I didn't think it was necessary, because I think it's something to bring up in the story. These are things that can help people relate that read it and are kind of going through similar situations. But I just hated reading it. It was so gut-wrenching. Yeah, exactly. I think that's what he was going for.
Yeah. Real quick, for anybody who is just joining us, we are discussing Vault of Midnight's Book of the Month. It is The Magic Fish by Trung Le Nguyen. It is incredible. Story about a first-generation Vietnamese immigrant boy growing up in America with a split language household, with a rift between he and his parents because both of them favors a different language, trying to come out and find the words, and life kind of getting in the way, and how it feels to grow up feeling isolated from the people who love you most, even though you don't want to. Beautiful, beautiful story. Again, real quick, available every shop for 15% off for the rest of the month. I highly recommend grabbing it. But yes, that is my also my least favorite part, which is like saying you hate an actor because it's like saying you hate the kid who played Joffrey because Joffrey was so horrible. What you really mean is you love him because you think he's such a good actor that you hated him.
Right.
I hate that part of the graphic novel because Trungles is so good at showing these feelings and giving you this empathy in one page, in 2 panels, 3 panels. The Carly, you touched on when he said, when he sat down in the meeting and the pastor or father or reverend or whomever it was says, "Have you come out to your parents yet?" And you think this is like this is going to be like because you don't see who says it. It's right after he's speaking to the teacher who seems nice. So you're led to believe for a moment this is a safe space. They're trying to maybe touch base with him and be human with him. And his response is no. And very truthfully, very really, he says, "I don't know the words in Vietnamese." He very truly is like, I want to tell my parents, I just don't know how. And then you see that it is a religious figurehead, and his response is good. Yeah. His response is good because you'll just hurt your parents if you do so. And that just made my stomach drop. And I'm like, yeah, this is beautiful. I am enraged. Trungles, you did it. You did such a great job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it felt very real, very personal. Yeah. And I'm sure, like, I think to Carly's point, I think a lot of folks could relate to having your right to reveal something about yourself taken away from you by, another party. And that's, that's a lot. So I agree. That was absolutely the heaviest part of this book, I think, for sure. And there's a few other heavy things to be sure, but that was a lot for sure.
Is this a book that left you guys lingering with anything? Any thoughts? Any questions? Were there any like things you wish had been addressed that weren't? I'm trying to think back. Personally, it feels pretty solid. It feels like he doesn't introduce anything without giving it a resolution.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Just to say, boy, isn't this a great book again?
Again, too, and it's his first book, too.
Yeah, which is wild.
You hit it out of the park that fast. Good, not that fast, but like that perfectly. Yeah. It's gorgeous.
I have a favorite line from the whole thing. I don't know if you guys have one specific line that stuck out to you at all or stuck with you. To be fair, it was right near the end, so it has a good chance of sticking in your head. But it was after his mom has changed the story, and he's like, wait, hang on, that's not, and she goes, don't interrupt. And basically tells him without knowing how to have this discussion in their language through their fairy tales, tells him it's okay. And then the only thing she actually says to him about it is, direct quote, "I don't know how to talk about this stuff, but I love everything you are." I reread it 3 or 4 times of like, is that her being scared? Because she's like, I don't know, or is it her saying, I'm stupid, I'm uneducated, I don't know what this is, but what I do know is whatever you are, I love you. And it just that sentence felt so impactful. Like hundreds of millions of people have been waiting to hear that exact sentence their entire lives. It seemed very succinct and like it was coming from a place of, I wish I had been told this. And it just felt very heavy in the book.
The part for me that just stuck out was when Tien's mother is back in Vietnam and she's speaking with her aunt at the time. And that's when they start getting into their version of Snow White. And when it gets to the very end of it, which has a surprising happy ending, she's kind of skeptical, and she says, "Is that really how it ended? As in, like, are you just twisting this story to benefit my emotional state right now?" And she just goes, "I don't know. Stories change."
That's what stories are. That's
exactly
the whole story is to tell you something you need.
Stories change; they adapt to the times. Stories become what you need at the time to help you through a difficult process.
Oh, looks like we lost Curtis for a second.
Oh, can you still hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can still hear you.
Yes, we can still hear you.
Just shut my camera off for some reason.
Did you have a sort of moment that sat with you more than others?
For me, it was just like the realization that the story is equally about his mom as well.
Yeah.
And I just loved so much that they portrayed that it can be very difficult as a young person to, communicate with your family or your friends or whoever, really, because we've all been young. There's a lot going on. You're trying to figure out what you like and who you are, and that's all extremely difficult. And then to see his mother struggle to be like this really great mom. She's always super understanding and tries to be there for her son, but then she's a person too and has a lot going on as well in her own really, really heavy emotional stuff. So
the way it keeps flashing back between the fairy tales they're telling and her past, the juxtaposition between the light and beautiful and airy Tien saying, "Hey, what is it like to fall in love?" And then you flash back to his mom and dad escaping war-torn Vietnam and being refugees, but together, and like seeing the life she's lived, cutting to her reading fairy tales with her child is so impactful.
Yeah, I loved it. I liked, like you said at the end, where they kind of arrive at that place together where they're both, I don't know if clumsy is the right word, but just trying to figure out how to talk with each other and just finally kind of putting it out there, even if it's not exactly perfect. Like, they're having the, starting the conversation, as opposed to, the struggle is like, how do we say it right? And the both of them kind of dance around it and try to almost like do research, right? To figure out like, how do we start this conversation? How do I say it just right? And then, we just get there at the end, which is pretty cool. I like the way it's sort of like everything that we read in the comic, as big as it is and as impactful as it is, that it ends right where it really begins, right? That's one of my favorite things about good stories is like the ending is really the beginning. We just read the prequel, right? So, and that's not to say I want a sequel, that's like, let's just leave it unsaid. Let's leave it there. But I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I think my camera's broken, you guys. So
we can still hear you though.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a nice segue to our last question. Oh, and then we just lost Curtis entirely.
Just us.
Well, now we can talk about the real stuff. We're being held captive. No. So I think that is a good segue to now definitely the last question. I was going to say possibly the last question, but it seems like maybe book club is wrapping itself up.
It's true.
And that's just a basic, this is an easy question, I think, but it's, would you read more from this author?
Absolutely.
Obviously, yes.
Oh my gosh.
This is book one, so I am hungry for more. Usually when we do a book club, I will check it out and then research the back catalog. Excuse me. And then I can read all of their previous work and see how it has affected, but nope. This is it. I just got to read Magic Fish 10 more times and wait for more books.
And absolutely. Welcome back, Curtis.
Hey, I can hear you guys the whole time.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, good. So I was going to mention too, I don't remember if he has a name for this book that he's been working on currently, but there's another young adult book that he's working on right now, which is more based upon, we have a younger girl, I think she's about middle school age, and she's taking on too much. She's taking on too many jobs. She's taking on too many of other people's problems, and she's causing herself to age much faster than the rest of the people in her family. So she has to figure out how to make herself essentially turn back into a kid, if what I'm understanding the proper thing. I'm excited for that type of tale, especially with their artwork style. I think that's going to be really pretty.
Yeah.
And then obviously they've got, I think they've got 3 or 4 tarot decks out right now.
I was just going to bring
on top
that
of that. Yes, if you love their artwork, you're going to love their tarot cards even more. They're stunning. Which we have at the store.
Yeah, which we have at the store, by the way, available on the web store, vaultofmidnight.shop, or in any Vault of Midnight location. You can get the Star Spinner Tarot set, which is in the art style of Trungles.
Yeah.
Don't know what that looks like. It's beautiful.
Oh, and we should probably say, Trungles is the name they use for all their social media stuff, too.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to, check out more, just Google Trungles, and that's their Twitter handle and IG handle and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Before we go, y'all, can I ask you, what is your favorite fairy tale?
I like the Red Dancing Shoes. That's always been a favorite of mine.
Oh, good one.
I don't remember the super specifics, but the idea is they're haunted shoes that make you dance until your feet turn into little nubs. Right. So it's like such a weird thing to, because all fairy tales stem from some sort of cautionary tale or some sort of, I'm trying to teach the younger generation a lesson of some sort. So what was the lesson there?
Right.
What was going on in like 14th century Germany where too many people were dancing and then like a Footloose fairy tale had to come out? I've just always loved the sort of, there's a story behind every weirdly specific rule.
Yeah.
I see the story behind why they felt the need to warn children about dancing too late into the night. Because that sounds like a dope place to live.
It does.
That's one of my favorites.
It also sounds like a Dungeons and Dragons item at the same time.
I made a homebrew version of it for one of my characters.
Where was Kevin Bacon?
Dance away from dying, and they gave them away to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry.
That would be a good one. I was going to mention, I love any of the Snow White stories that involve her red-haired sister. Yes, the ones with like Snow White, her sister, and the bear. I always think those stories are really interesting. That's what got me into Fables, actually, with the comic, because there were so many great fairy tales that they took things from for that series, and of course, it's gorgeous as well. Yeah. But it made me think way all back to this when I was reading this book. So I was like, oh, it's going over all like the basic fun fairy tales. Yeah. Have fun, Curtis?
I came late. I didn't read that stuff until later. Like I cut my teeth. Like the very first stuff I read was comic books. So,
oh, that's true.
Yeah. I was a Conan the Barbarian guy, really, really young, and Elric. So like high fantasy.
I know those fairy tales, of course.
Stuff, really stuck with me.
Why are you implying that comic books are not just fairy tales?
This is true. This is true. Just repackaged.
That's a silly thing to say.
There's probably a fairy godmother in Conan. I'm sure there is.
Your favorite fairy tale is Conan. Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. I always liked Hansel and Gretel, but I always thought it was super creepy and horrible. Yeah. It's like it's a nightmare. It's like a horror movie, but
the originals are even worse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I always thought Jack and the Beanstalk was cool too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Climb a beanstalk and go to a kick-ass castle way up in the clouds. You know, and then it's a little bit scary and stuff too. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that the moral of that story from a certain perspective is be an idiot. Trade your cat beans.
See what happens.
Get swindled by any old snake oil salesman, because who knows?
That's right. That's right. The dad was so bummed out when he came home with those stupid magic beans
out the window.
Oh my gosh!
Though, can we imagine what would have happened if they had eaten those beans?
Right.
Ew.
Do not eat those beans.
That's Junji Ito's Jack and the Beanstalk.
Yeah.
No.
All right, I think that's a good place to end it. Once again, this was our Book of the Month Club. We do it every single Sunday. Or sorry, not every single Sunday. The last Sunday of every month. Every single month, we discuss that Book of the Month. Next month's is...
Boys Run the Riot.
Was something and then changed something. What is it?
Yes. Boys Run the Riot.
Boys Run the Riot. You heard it here first, folks. Boys Run the Riot will be next month. We'll be right here, the final Sunday of the month, 2:00, streaming live to talk about the creator, the world, the story, our opinions, and a bunch of other probably random stuff. So thank you guys all for swinging by. Thank you for spending time with us. If you're watching this after the fact, thanks for spending some time and checking it out. You can pick up Magic Fish in any Vault of Midnight shop, Vault of Midnight Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, or Detroit, or on our web store, vaultofmidnight.shop, for 15% off for the end of the month. Thank you guys all for coming out. Caleb signing off.
Caleb, thanks for hosting. Carly, thank you so much.
Thanks for hosting, Caleb. Bye.
Thank you guys. Thank you.